Welcome back for chapter 22. Well, that was stupid, May said as she reappeared. Then she realized she was talking to herself and repeated the same thought in her head. And then she realized that maybe she'd be better off spending her time looking around rather than making snarky comments in her head. Then she decided that there was nothing better than making snarky comments in her head, but still, looking around was probably smart. Hello, May said to the darkness surrounding her. Darkness not really that unlike the throne room she had just been disappeared from. The familiar-looking darkness didn't answer her, which was irritating. That meant that Philip at least had been disappeared somewhere else, not in hearing range. What was even more irritating was that Jack might still be back in the throne room, and who knew if he was okay? Jack was just so useless on his own. Honestly, without her around, he'd probably been eaten by another giant, or worse. Yeah, probably worse. Hello, May said again, tired of the annoying darkness. She felt around the floor beneath her and decided it was probably Coral. She was still swimming, so at least she hadn't been magicked right out of the ocean. Not that returning to land would have been such a bad thing. At this point, she might have even welcomed it, sea witch or no. Not without Philip or Jack, but still. Anyway, what was the sea witch's deal? They had tried to talk to her, and she went and freaked out in the tiniest mention of fairies. It was rude, first of all, but there was a lot of second of alls after all. This whole place is rude, May said as she slid her feet carefully over the coral, moving slowly in the darkness. If by rude I mean stupid, and I do, jerks. And they were jerks. After all, they were the ones who couldn't even get their own stories right. The sea witch wasn't the one who turned into a mermaid in the story. It was the mermaid who turned human, which granted sounded like it happened, but it hadn't everything turned out okay in the story? Or was that the cartoon version, not the original? Had anyone ever read the original? May hadn't even been allowed to read fairy tales for reasons that were now becoming a little bit more obvious. Her right foot tapped a wall and she pushed her hands up against it. Coral again. At least it wasn't a whale, which was a plus, given that whales could probably swallow a whole bus, not to mention her. Of course, Jack was probably still back in the whale room, or whatever it was, the king of the seven seas. If that boy did something dumb to get hurt, she really was going to have to kill him. The coral wall seemed to be curving around, so May followed it until she felt an indentation, something that reminded her uncomfortably of bars on a jail cell. She frowned. This whole thing seemed a bit too familiar, reminding her of Malevolent's cells. Granted, she had regrown most of her sarcasm, but there probably weren't a whole lot of imps living underwater anyway. Way to go, Jack, she said, yanking on the bars. How am I supposed to rescue you when I'm all locked up? Perhaps I can help, said a voice from the other side of the bars. May squinted, trying to see who or what was talking, but unless who or what was solid darkness, she was at a loss. Maybe you can, May said tentatively, but I'm going to need to hear conditions up front. You know, like if you help me escape, then you get to eat me, or that sort of thing. The voice sighed. I have no desire to eat you. I need to know why you're looking for the sea witch. May forced a laugh. See, I was just throwing that eating thing out there as a wild possibility. And now you're talking as if eating me isn't a wild possibility at all. More like a household dog or a cat tame possibility. Why was her eyesight taking so long to adjust? Talking to this person blind wasn't helping her comfort level at all. And why do you care about why I care about the sea witch? A familiar-looking mermaid with red hair and a shimmering green tail floated up to the bars. Because she was very special to me, Megan said. May gasped and then realized something that wasn't making sense. Well, more than usual. Wait, I thought you were the sea witch. Megan sighed. I never really believed the myths that humans were less intelligent than merfolk, but perhaps there is some truth to that. I am not the sea witch, at least not in the way you're meaning. You're referring to, she paused, you're referring to a fairy queen. Yes, that's her, that's the one we want, May said. Where is she so I can call her the sea witch and she can help us? I'm afraid she will not help anyone, Megan said. The sea witch is dead. Dead, May said, hope floating away from her like bubbles rising to the surface. No, she can't be dead. She's not dead. We need her. She's the only one who can help her people. There's a spell, a curse, and she needs to go home, to go back to her homeland and fix it. I'm very sorry, Megan said. She was quite important to me as well. I still grieve her absence to this day, almost 50 years later. Great, you go ahead and grieve her, May said, flopping herself to the coral floor as quickly as the water would let her. It's a good time for all. Are about 100,000 fairies in need of some grieving this time tomorrow. She was my mentor, Megan said, apparently not having heard what May had said. A friend to me when no one else was. She understood that what I was going through, and neither of us felt as if we belonged among our own people. Her kind treated her horribly, could never understand her love for a merman, my father, and once she left, they resolved never to speak of her again. So she gave up her old life to become something new. May started to say something about how that was a long way to go to impress a man, but kept her mouth shut, figuring now might not be the best time. My father soon rejected her, Megan continued. He was as blind as her kind had been. He couldn't understand. I was her only friend here, a kindred soul. She taught me that there was magic in music, and gave me the power to do what she had done, even if she didn't realize it. It took a second, but the mermaid's words gradually filtered through May's dark daydreams of dragons flying toward the fairy homelands. Wait, who's your father? The Sea King, Megan said, her back still turned. You're the princess, May asked? The one who turned human to be with a prince? It was like a jolt of electricity hit Megan right in the back. What? What do you know of it? Some of your sisters told my friend, May said. They said Bluebeard was looking for you. He's the one who brought us here to find the Sea Witch. He said he needed the Sea Witch to help him on a job. Sounds like you're the job. Maybe your prince sent him here to find you. You're lying, Megan said, pushing her face up to the bars to stare May in the face. For some reason, May had assumed Megan would be older, given that she'd supposedly turned human like 50 years ago. But aside from the yellow eyes and sharp fangs, the woman pushing her face against the bars didn't look more than her early 30s, tops. Okay, whatever you say, May told her, taking a step back. The mermaid's voice might have been gentle, but those eyes. It felt like the look of a lion giving children watching it in the zoo. Only this time, May was on the wrong side of the bars. Listen, we're all a little on the sketchy side with the whole Bluebeard thing. I get that he's creepy, but you said something about the Sea Witch giving you power. She didn't give me anything. She taught me how to sing, Megan said absently. I was one of the few she had ever met who could match her voice and therefore could use the magic of the fairy queens. Why? Why would he come after so long? Oh, he's been trapped for like 40 years, May told her, along with your sisters. Long story. But this could be perfect. With your Sea Witch magic, you could help us save the fairy homelands and do whatever it is that Bluebeard needs to get you back to your prince. Then everyone's happy or tragic or whatever it is you're trying to be by giving everything up for your human boyfriend. The fairies don't deserve my help, not after how they treated my friend, Megan said. And as for Bluebeard, it's been so many years, I could take you to the ship, May said quietly, so you can talk to him about your prince and see what's what. But if I do that, I'm going to need your help. Are you trying to bargain with me, Megan said, her eyes narrowing. I could just leave you here. My father intends to starve you or feed you to the sharks. Gah, Megan said. Well, and wow, by the way, because we didn't do anything but show up here. That's really sweet of him. But you realize that if either of those two delightful options actually happens, I won't be able to take you to Bluebeard, which I will do if you free me and my friends, and help us to end the curse on the fairy homelands. Honestly, you may be the only person in this entire world who could. Curse? Megan said absently, not really paying attention. It's a long and kind of complicated story that I really don't want to get into with you right now, but to sum it up, the fairies and the fairy queens are all about to die, and our only chance of saving them is to bring a fairy queen back with us. We can't find any others except the supposedly the Sea Witch who was one of them. And just stop for a moment, Megan said, and turned away again. This isn't about love or bitterness or any of that. So what's the issue, May said impatiently. And if we could move this along, that would be amazing. We really are not doing well on time here. When I turned myself human, Megan said slowly, my father blamed the Sea Witch. After he followed me to shore and took me back here, he put the Sea Witch on trial. So, May said, it's not like she did anything. You did all the magic yourself, right? Megan nodded. But my father didn't care. Instead, he found her guilty and then executed her. She looked up at May, her eyes reddish, though any tears were hidden by the water. It is my fault the sea witch is dead, human, because I used her magic. I killed her. And I'm going to be back with chapter 23 next time. See you guys.